From there, we'll move on to milk, and then that signature, and hopefully we're all gonna make it out alive and somewhat inspired, okay? Here we go. So, a famous fellow Texan, Brene Brown, once said, "Vulnerability isn't about winning or losing. It's about having the courage to show up and be seen when you have no control over the outcome." Now, this is how I began my routine, in prelims and qualifiers. But when I was preparing for this national stage, it just didn't hit me as hard. I kind of felt like I already did that. I showed up, I was seen, I was vulnerable. What's next? And then I realized, what's next? Isn't that exactly why we're all here today? Now, my coffee story really begins in 2018, in October, when I took a DIY origin trip to Valle de Cauca, Colombia. I was a year out of college, working for a local roaster in Maryland, and I was passionate but uninspired by the day-to-day coffee operations. So I took my destiny into my own hands, bought a plane ticket to Colombia, Google searched coffee farms near Cali, and just went. And for 2 weeks, I picked and sorted beans for Mary and Gladys San Martin Rojas, two sisters operating a teensy little coffee farm in La Cumbre. All right, spoiler alert. The coffee I'm making for you right now, it's not from that farm. But we'll get back to that. Mary and Gladys inherited their farm in 2015, when their mom suddenly passed away. And soon after, both sisters were forced to leave their comfortable lives in the city and move out to the countryside to commit themselves to the art of coffee farming, of which they knew next to nothing. Enter me, a 22-year-old American barista traveling alone to the middle of nowhere to see where coffee comes from, and to hold it in my hands and watch it transform from a plant to a flower to a seed to a cup. Now, me and Mary and Gladys, we all had one major thing in common, and that was a passion for progress. We were all willing to push ourselves outside of our comfort zone just to ask, what's next? All right, fast forward, April 2019, I quit my job, moved 1,600 miles away to Austin, Texas, where I know no one, and Greater Goods hires me as a barista, and I'm so excited, oh my goodness. And the minute I stepped behind that machine on East 5th and Pedernales, I realized that everything I thought I knew about coffee was so small. And I'm instantly humbled, and I learned new vocabulary words like extraction and solubles and coffee competition, and I don't think I'm gonna compete. I'm thinking I'm way too new, there's no way. Until I find out that the coffee that Con and Trey, the owners of the company, had selected for competition was from none other than Valle de Cauca, Colombia. I couldn't make it up if I tried. These sweet, complex, intense honey geisha beans that you're about to try today were grown by Rigoberto Herrera at his Café Granja La Esperanza Cerro Azul farm in Valle de Cauca. Cosmically speaking, he and Mary and Gladys were neighbors, just 2 hours away from each other, but the operations couldn't have been more polar opposite. Rigoberto is doing revolutionary things with coffee. Experimental processing, new fermentation methods, and high-end varietals are the staples of his operation. And he's got all the awards to prove it, but the real proof is in this cup you're about to taste today. Before this coffee could be here with us today, a few things had to happen. First, it was researched and developed for roughly 12 years. It was selectively picked and sorted this time last year. It was double fermented, semi-washed, dried using a mix of patio and mechanical dryers, sent to a warehouse to be stored and rested for 60 days before it was sent to us in Austin, where it was roasted in teensy little batches by hand on an ikawa. If you've ever done that, you know how much that sucks. All right, as I place this before you, please evaluate the crema, but wait to taste until further instructions. So like I said, a lot of things had to happen, but I'll tell you what all that means later. Right now, I just want you to focus on how this coffee is going to taste, which will be, this is the important part, tart cherry, wildflower honey, and white tea for an espresso that will have a medium lightweight, a silky mouthfeel, and a pleasantly drying Chardonnay-like finish. Please stir this espresso 10 times with the bigger spoon on your plate, and then use the little dish to discard, and I'll go get started on those milk beverages. Cool? Awesome, thank you.
All right, let's show some support for Miranda's Espressos.
All right, now chapter 2 picks up where we left off at Greater Goods Roasting. Con and Trey have been roasting coffee since 2015, and for all intents and purposes, they're still in the very beginning stages of business. But a lot like me and Mary and Gladys, Con and Trey had that passion for progress. Greater Goods is very much the result of two people asking themselves, what's next? So they sold one successful company to start another one and follow their passion for coffee down a rabbit hole. And what resulted was something beautiful. One of Con and Trey's new favorite pastimes became trading coffee with their roaster friends. And in 2018, they received a bag of Café Granja La Esperanza Sudan Rumé. And it was a total aha moment. So they met with the producer during Expo. They tried this magical honey geisha, and they negotiated one purchase of one 24-kilogram bag of it right away. But the relationship didn't end there. Con and Trey also bought 2 other coffees from Café Granja. And this, I think, is where their philosophy really manifests itself. Now, shameless plug for the Peanut Gallery, one of those coffees can be tried today at my audience time. So like I said, this is their philosophy, that not every coffee can be a high-end, ultra-specialty varietal, right? We need to be purchasing those other coffees as well, the ones that maybe don't win competitions, but are still just as delicious. Now, right now, I'm making for you a drink that is 1 part espresso and 2 parts milk, because I think that gave the perfect balance of sweetness for this already intensely sweet honey geisha. And also, like I said before, it's my first time, so I did not freeze distill this milk because I have to say I don't really know how to do that. And I think the sweetness of a local non-homogenized milk is the perfect complement to this honey geisha. So this is milk from Strauss Creamery that I purchased at a local Whole Foods. And it's full-fat, non-homogenized whole milk, like I said before. When Con and Trey added Cafe Granja to their roster, they stepped up their game in the name of progressing forward. Just like the addition of milk to this espresso is going to step up the game of this coffee. So today in your milk beverage, you will taste, ready? Lemon custard, freeze-dried raspberry, and a sweet graham cracker crust. As I place them before you, please feel free to dig in and enjoy, and I'll go get started on that signature beverage. Thank you so much. Okay. Chapter 3 of my story begins right here with you on the Barista National Championship. My hands are literally shaking, but I showed up, and so did you. And for me, a milk beverage and an espresso, I get that. I'm a barista 40 hours a week. This is what I do every day, right? But the signature beverage is where I was really thrown for a loop, because this is my what's next. So I tried to let this coffee speak for itself, because really, this is the star of the show, okay? So first, this coffee, like I said, was double fermented. So first for 24 hours in the whole cherry, and then again for 36 hours in its mucilage. And that's where that honey process distinction comes in. Now, honey process coffees are unique in that they maintain the clean finish of a washed coffee, but also exhibit some of those fruit notes and creamier textures of a natural. So to represent that, I've added 7 grams of Luxardo cherry syrup to 2 extractions of this honey geisha and allowed it to sit together to really blend the 2 flavors for the first 12 and a half minutes that we were together. I'm starting with a warm base because this coffee, like I said, is incredibly sweet, and as it cools, it becomes almost saccharine. So I wanted to maintain a level of subtle sweetness so that I could really accentuate some of the other flavors as well. Now, florality is hardwired in a geisha's genetics. It's very rare that you'll find one of these coffees without that element to it. So I've added 4 ice cubes that I made with a white tea. Oh, okay, I'll clean that up. To a nitrogen charger. Whew. I've also added egg whites as a foaming agent. Okay, those things are hard. Egg whites as a foaming agent. This coffee has a citric acidity that I loved, so I also added orange zest to that as well, and orange blossom honey, because at its best, this coffee is incredibly sweet. Okay, now the first thing I noticed about this honey geisha was its aroma. As soon as I broke the seal, I knew exactly what I was dealing with. So I wanted to represent that with a vanilla aromatic mist that I made with vanilla paste, vanilla extract, and lemon oil, which I'll spray on each one of your drinks. And as I serve it, please use that other spoon to incorporate both elements as vigorously as you can and inhale deeply before taking a sip. Now, the reasoning for a hot drink with a cold foam is that, you're welcome, is that this espresso takes a journey in your mouth. It is truly complex, and I wanted to represent that as best as I could. And so this is where I started. So, please enjoy. I'm going to clean up, and then I have one more thing to say. So everyone has to start somewhere, right? Me here today, you as a judge had to start somewhere. Mary and Gladys, Con and Trey, Rigoberto Herrera, when he first brought a Colombian geisha, or a Panamanian geisha to Colombia, he had to start somewhere. But what sets us apart is that we're all willing to be here today and show up and be vulnerable. I forgot to mention, Fruity Pebbles, Orange Dreamsicle. That's what that drink tastes like. All right, thank you so much for being here today. I've really had so much fun. Time.
All right, let's give it up for Miranda.
Thank you.
And you can come on back here.
Okay.
Come over and say hi to me. Take a little trek. Excellent job.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love your energy.
Oh,
I
thank
also
you.
just in general, I love like your adventurous spirit. You are just ready and willing to go anywhere and do anything and try new things. And I just think that is so much fun.
Sure. Thank you.
I love it. So, so with your signature beverage, you know, as you mentioned, this was something new to add to your routine.
Yeah.
So what was kind of like your main inspiration for it?
I have to be honest, I knew a lot of people were going to come in this weekend doing crazy things, and I started by saying like, oh, I'm going to do something crazy, and then I slowly realized that is not something I can do, so I was like, I'm going to just keep it simple, and I really just tried to follow the tasting notes and the mouthfeel and try to represent that by simplifying them and enhancing them to make them something else.
Totally, yeah. And it's like, you don't have to, now granted, it comes down to taste, like what you said. So, and I know one of the things you also wanted to take this opportunity was to thank some people.
Yeah.
So, give us a shout out.
So I want to thank everybody at Greater Goods, first and foremost, Con for being here with me today, and then everybody in the cafe for picking up my slack when I was training and just being super supportive and understanding of everything. And I want to thank my parents for creating me and making me born, and all my friends and all my supporters, and the guy Rigoberto who grew this coffee, Mary and Gladys who let me stay on their farm, all the people who are willing to accept this version of crazy and then run with it.
Oh my God. I love it. That's great. Takes a village, right?
Yes, it does, for sure.
Well, excellent job. Let's have
Thank
one more
you.
round of applause for Miranda Haney from Greater Goods Coffee, Austin, Texas. We'll be back in just a couple seconds with our next competitor.